Hello and welcome, I'm Joshua Barnes and you're watching The World Report. Let's first take a look at some headlines. The investigation into a deadly plane crash in South Korea which killed 179 people is continuing. Experts have questioned if a bird flock strike caused the deadly crash, while Jeju Air stocks have sunk to record lows. The new Syrian de facto leader has warned that elections could take up to 4 years amid worldwide calls for a quick process. Leaders in the country have urged the US to lift sanctions. Two hospitals in Gaza have reportedly been targeted by Israeli forces. Detainees from the Kamal Adwan hospital, which was previously raided, say the hospital director was taken to an IDF detention centre. Authorities in South Korea are seeking an arrest warrant for impeached President Yoon Suk-yeol. This comes after Yoon failed to attend a third court summons over a short-lived martial law imposition. Investigations continue at the Muan International Airport following the crash of Jeju Air Flight 2216. While a bird strike is suspected, experts question if it alone caused the failure of multiple systems on a Boeing 737. Meanwhile, grief-stricken families await the release of their loved ones' bodies. Here is the latest update.
Investigations are continuing late into the night at Muan International Airport in South Korea, where debris from the Jeju Air Flight 2216 crash is being meticulously examined. Every detail of the wreckage is being analysed as authorities work to piece together what led to the disaster. Initial investigations suggest a bird strike may have been a contributing factor, with the pilot reporting the incident and declaring Mayday shortly before the crash. However, experts remain sceptical that this alone could explain the catastrophic failure of multiple systems on a Boeing 737, a plane designed with extensive redundancies.
Aircraft engines are built to withstand a lot, including a bird strike. But if the birds are particularly large, they're in flocks and there's several of them, then even a modern jet engine has problems against it. And we saw that in what's called the Miracle of the Hudson River, where there was a flock of Canadian geese. So we're looking at substantial birds hitting an engine, and that is, as we know, very rare.
In response to the tragedy, South Korea has announced plans to conduct a special inspection of all 101 Boeing 737-800s currently in operation across the country. US investigators, possibly from Boeing, joined the probe into the crash.
일단은 사고가 나서 737-800기종에 대해서만 특별 점검을 우선적으로 해서 정비 관리 체계에 대해서 좀 더 면밀하게 좀 들여다보고 그 다음 조치에 대해서 또 이렇게 판단할 계획입니다.
Meanwhile, at the airport, grief-stricken families wait anxiously for the bodies of their loved ones to be released.
걱정이 무너지죠. 생각지도 못한 일이 일어나가지고 97세 된 어머니한테 너무 효자였는데 어머니가 너무 안쓰러워서 정말 하고 계시는 걸 벌써부터 보고 싶다고.
Recovery teams have emphasized the need for caution to avoid mistakes, but the delays have left many families feeling frustrated and desperate for closure. Bureau Report, NewsX.
We'll now head to South America for the latest news updates. Former US President Jimmy Carter, who passed away on Sunday at the age 100, played a key role in the Panama Canal's transfer to Panama. President Jose Molino called Carter's leadership crucial, noting the deal restored Panama's sovereignty. Molino said Carter's White House tenure was marked by complex negotiations, but the canal's handover was a major achievement. Meanwhile, Cuba's President Miguel Diaz-Canel expressed gratitude, with Cubans remembering Carter fondly. Condolences have poured in worldwide following his death. 3 deaths have been linked to massive 13-foot waves hitting Ecuador, Chile and Peru. Nearly 100 ports are closed due to the rough seas. Ecuador's risk management official, Jorge Carrillo, warned of more extreme events, confirming 2 deaths in Manta. Chile's navy reported the death of a 30-year-old man at a beach. In Peru, waves have submerged jetties and public areas, forcing evacuations. Ports across the country remain closed, with authorities citing dangerous conditions. The big waves, driven by winds off the US coast, are expected to calm by early January. Brazilian police are investigating 3 deaths linked to a Christmas cake laced in arsenic. The women, aged 43, 58 and 65, died after a family gathering in Torres on December the 23rd. The woman who baked the cake and a 10-year-old girl are also in hospital, recovering from poisoning. Laboratory tests confirmed arsenic in the victim's blood. Police have questioned 15 people but have not yet filed charges. No signs of a family dispute were found, while one person at the gathering did not eat the cake and was unaffected. Suriname's former dictator Desi Bouterse has died aged 79 from liver failure. An official autopsy confirmed the cause was complications from chronic alcohol use. Bouterse's body was found at his residence in Paramaribo after being dropped off by unknown individuals. He had been in hiding for years following his conviction for the 1982 killing of political opponents. Authorities are investigating how he evaded arrest and how his body ended up at his home. The government has ruled out a state funeral for Bouterse. Authorities in Mexico's Chiapas state have discovered 11 clandestine graves with the bodies of 15 men. The bodies were found during a raid in La Cocardia near the Guatemala border amid a drug cartel dispute. 4 people linked to the case were arrested with weapons and drugs in their possession. Drones and geo-radars were used in the operation. Chiapas prosecutors also reported finding another grave with charred bodies last week. The violence between cartels has displaced over 10,000 people in recent years. Tensions rise as Russia rejects US peace proposals. Diplomatic standoffs between Moscow and Washington have continued, while Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov has sharply rejected peace proposals put forward by Trump's team, raising questions about the future of Ukraine's NATO ambitions. European peacekeepers and the ongoing war in Ukraine. Will Trump's plan for a 20-year delay in NATO membership and European-led peacekeeping forces hold up? What does Putin's ultimatum mean for global order? Here are the details.
In recent developments, Russia's foreign minister, Sergei Lavrov, has expressed dissatisfaction with the peace deal proposals from US President-elect Donald Trump's team. Reports indicate that Trump's team has suggested delaying Ukraine's NATO membership for at least 20 years in exchange for continued Western military support and the deployment of European peacekeepers to monitor a ceasefire. Lavrov has specifically rejected the idea of introducing European peacekeepers to Ukraine, stating that Russia does not find these proposals acceptable. Sources say that the proposals, discussed by Zelensky and Macron, suggest freezing hostilities at the current front lines and shifting Russia's confrontation to Europe. Trump has emphasized the need for Europe to take a leading role in deterring Russian aggression. However, Lavrov has pointed out that Moscow has not received any formal signals from Washington regarding these proposals, as US policy remains under the Biden administration until Trump's inauguration. Meanwhile, Putin has reiterated Russia's goal to end the conflict by 2025, but has rejected any notion of a ceasefire, calling it a road to nowhere. Putin has also expressed his willingness to engage in dialogue with Trump, but with firm demands, including a refusal to make territorial concessions and a rejection of Ukraine's NATO membership. Despite Trump's bold claims of achieving peace within 24 hours, his team has yet to outline any concrete steps to resolve the ongoing conflict. Bureau Report, NewsX.
Let's now look at the latest updates from across the Indo-Pacific region. The Taliban has issued a decree banning the construction of windows in buildings overlooking areas where women are present. They cited concerns over obscene acts that might result from men observing women in domestic spaces. This latest edict has furthered the group's systematic erosion of women's rights. A fire has broken out at a hotel near Bangkok's Khao San Road, a popular tourist destination. Thai police have confirmed that 3 foreigners were killed and several others were injured. The 3 people who died in the fire were all foreign visitors. according to police. One was found dead at the scene, while the other two have passed away after being admitted to hospital. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un held a key policy-setting meeting of the country's ruling party last week, ahead of the new year. This meeting, which involved party and government officials, concluded with a decision to launch the toughest strategy to counteract the United States. This strategy is aimed at defending North Korea's security and national interests. According to the report, no further details were provided. A court in northern China has handed lengthy prison sentences to two teenagers for the murder of their classmate with a shovel. The case has sparked a national debate over the treatment of juvenile offenders. Three suspects, all aged 13 at the time of the murder, were accused in April of bullying a 13-year-old classmate over an extended period. Taiwan's Ministry of National Defense has reported the detection of 23 Chinese military aircraft and 6 naval vessels operating near the island. Among the aircraft, 16 crossed the median line and entered Taiwan's airspace. A Pakistani paramilitary soldier has been killed and 7 others wounded in cross-border exchanges of fire with Afghanistan. Meanwhile, hundreds of Afghans have protested against the deadly airstrikes that triggered the clashes. Sporadic fighting, including exchanges involving heavy weaponry, erupted overnight between border forces along the frontier. Jimmy Carter, who served as the 39th President of the United States, has passed away on Sunday in his home in Plains, Georgia. Carter, who served as the president from 1977 to 1981, lived longer than any president in the history of the United States. Let's take a look back at his political career and his personal life.
Jimmy Carter, the 100-year-old former US President and Nobel Peace Laureate, died on 29 December 2024. Jimmy Carter rose from humble beginnings in rural Georgia to lead the nation from 1977 to 1981. Carter died peacefully at his home in Plains, surrounded by his family, the Carter Center said in a statement. Carter was the longest-lived US president, an outcome that seemed unlikely back in 2015 when the Southern Democrat revealed he had brain cancer. But the US Navy veteran and fervent Christian repeatedly defied the odds to enjoy a long and fruitful post-presidency, after 4 years in the Oval Office often seen as disappointing. During his single term, Carter placed a commitment to human rights and social justice, enjoying a strong first 2 years that included brokering a peace deal between Israel and Egypt, dubbed the Camp David Accords. However, Carter's administration saw a lot of snags as well, the most serious being the taking of US hostages in Iran and the disastrous failed attempt to rescue the 52 captive Americans in 1980. He also came in for criticism for his handling of an oil crisis. As condolences came in, many focused on Carter's character, with President Joe Biden, in televised remarks, saying he lived a life measured not by words, but by his deeds.
This is a sad day, but it brings back an incredible amount of good memories. Today, America and the world, in my view, lost a remarkable leader.
Meanwhile, the next president of the United States, Donald Trump, said Americans owed the Democrat a debt of gratitude, adding later, "I strongly disagreed with him philosophically and politically." Bureau Report, NewsX.
Let's now take a look at the latest news updates from the world of business. Asian stocks dipped on Monday, December the 30th, amid light trading activity during the holiday season. Following Wall Street losses last week that ended the Santa Claus rally, the S&P 500 and Nasdaq fell over 1%, led by Tesla's 5% drop and Nvidia's 2% loss in stocks. Investor concerns centered on US interest rate cuts and potential higher tariffs under incoming US President Donald Trump. Huawei slashed prices on high-end devices, including smartphones, by up to $411 during a JD.com Super Brand Day promotion over the weekend. Starting on Saturday evening and ending yesterday at midnight, discounts are applied to smartphones, headphones, watches and tablets, as announced on Huawei's official Weibo account. A record 3.4 million young Chinese took the civil service exam this year as they seek stable jobs with perks like subsidised housing amid a slowing economy and high youth unemployment. Applicant numbers, up by 400,000 from last year, highlight rising demand for stability as private sector opportunities dwindle and local governments face fiscal challenges. Siemens AG is reviewing its 75% stake in Siemens Health in Nears, valued at $46.91 billion. The CFO of German technology, Ralph Thomas, told the Handelsblatt newspaper that the synergies with the medical technology company, known for MRI machines and lab systems, are not strong enough to justify such a large capital commitment. Japanese factory activity contracted at a slower pace in December as production and new order declines eased. Nearing stabilisation, the AU Jibun Bank Japan Manufacturing Purchasing Managers Index rose to 49.6, the mildest contraction in 3 months, up from 49.0 in November. However, it remained below the 50.0 mark for the 6th consecutive month. Oil prices edged higher on Monday in thin holiday trade, with traders awaiting economic data from China and the US later this week to measure growth in the world's 2 largest oil consumers. Brent crude rose 5 cents to $74.22 a barrel, while US West Texas Intermediate gained 3 cents to $70.63 a barrel. Israel has continued to attack Gazan hospitals. The recent attacks have been on Al-Ali and Al-Wafa hospitals in the city. Meanwhile, a 5th person has died of hypothermia in Gaza and the victim is a 20-day-old baby. Here are the latest updates from the region.
The Israeli military targeted 3 major hospitals in the northern Gaza Strip. Doctors and authorities in the enclave requested immediate intervention by the international community. WHO Chief Dr. Tedros Adhanom said that the Al-Ali Hospital and Al-Wafa Rehabilitation Hospital in Gaza City were attacked, while 4 patients were detained as they were transferred from the Indonesia hospital to the Al-Shifa hospital. 7 patients and 15 caregivers and health workers remained at the Indonesian hospital, which is severely damaged and no longer able to provide care. Additionally, the Israeli army released a video it says shows the evacuation of civilians from the Kamal Adwan hospital in northern Gaza during a raid, which put North Gaza's last major health facility out of service. In a sad state of affairs, Juma al-Batran, a 20-day-old baby, became the 5th person to die from hypothermia in Gaza, according to its Ministry of Health. The child's twin brother, Ali, remains in intensive care. Juma's father said his son was found with his head as cold as ice when he woke up. They were told to keep the babies warm. It was impossible living in a tent.
أنا شربت من غاض من الضرب بالقصف في أولادي عشان أحميهم من القصف يموتوا هنا من الجوع والسقعة هذا برد مين برد مين.
Meanwhile, the prominent Palestinian hospital director who was arrested by Israel in the hospital raid is being held at a controversial military base that doubles as a detention facility. The Israeli military said it had detained Dr. Abu Safia because he was suspected of being a Hamas terrorist operative. Despite this, as the year comes to an end, the displaced Gazans live in tense wish for a peaceful new year amid the ongoing crisis and potential peace talks.
رسالتي للعالم في العام الجديد إنه اطلعوا لنا شوفونا بكفي حرب بكفي دمار بكفي مجازر وتهجير وإبادة.
In the almost 15 months since Hamas' deadly 7th October attack on Israel, more than 45,400 Palestinians have been killed. Nearly 2 million people have been displaced. Bureau Report, NewsX.
We'll now head to Europe for the latest news updates. A Serbian court in Belgrade has sentenced the parents of 13-year-old Ekmanovic, who killed 9 students and a security guard at an elementary school last year. Vladimir Kekmanovic was sentenced to 14.5 years in prison. Miljana, his mother, received a 3-year sentence. The Belgrade Higher Court announced the verdict on Monday. The German Parliament's Interior Committee will question security and intelligence officials on Monday about possible lapses before the deadly Magdeburg Christmas market attack. 5 people were killed and around 200 injured when a man drove a rented BMW SUV into a crowd. Police arrested 50-year-old Saudi psychiatrist Taleb A at the scene. Dominique Pellico, sentenced to 20 years in prison for raping his wife and recruiting others, will not appeal. His lawyer, Beatrice, confirmed the decision. Pellico pleaded guilty and the court gave him the maximum sentence of 20 years. His ex-wife, Giselle, was drugged and raped by multiple men over a 9-year period. Pellico was married to Giselle for 50 years. Spanish authorities have seized 7 tons of cocaine hidden under a farm. The civil guard tracked 2 suspicious speedboats to a rural estate in Correa del Rio, near Seville. The drugs were stored in sea freight containers buried underground. Authorities also seized 3 firearms, including an AK-47 and 2 stolen vehicles. This is the largest cocaine thus smuggled into southern Spain by speedboat. Croatia's presidential election heads to a runoff in 2 weeks. Incumbent Zoran Milanovic won 49.2% in the first round. His rival, Dragan Primorac, secured 19.4%. Official results show nearly 99% of polling stations have been reported. South Korean police have requested an arrest warrant for suspended President Yoon Suk-yeol over his short-lived imposition of martial law. This marks the first time an incumbent president has faced such charges as investigations into his actions intensify. Here's the report.
As per official reports, South Korean law enforcement officials have requested an arrest warrant for suspended President Yoon Suk-yeol over his short-lived imposition of martial law. This was confirmed by the Corruption Investigation Office for high-ranking officials who have sought the warrant from the Seoul Western District Court. This marks the first time when an incumbent president has faced such charges. Yoon has dodged multiple requests to summons for questioning by the Joint Investigation Team and public prosecutors, who are investigating whether his December 3rd martial law declaration constituted insurrection. The South Korean police have also failed to raid the presidential office in connection with the investigation. The president's lawyer, Yoon Kap-kang, condemned the detention attempts and challenged the warrant request in court, arguing it was invalid. He also argued that the anti-corruption agency lacked authority to investigate rebellion charges. He further implied that the investigation for the abuse of power should be exercised with the utmost restraint. The Democratic Party urged the court to issue the warrant, calling Yoon's detainment a step toward ending the rebellion and restoring normalcy. Yoon's fate now lies with the Constitutional Court, which has begun deliberations on whether to uphold the impeachment and formally remove Yoon from office or reinstate him. The court is yet to decide whether to issue an arrest warrant following the request. Bureau Report NewsX.
That is all we have time for. We'll be back soon with more international news updates.